Hey everybody, Chris from chrisTcross Crafts here, coming at you on a pretty cold morning. One of the biggest problems you run into when you're running a table saw is cutting those small pieces. Well, you put your fingers in there and well, that's dangerous. You use a scrap stick, well, that's just as dangerous. You go and you make some things like this right here. They work okay, but they just don't function quite like you want and give you whole power that you need. So what I did is a while back I did purchase the gripper. I'm just now getting ready to put that thing together and see how it works. But before I did, I thought I'd give you a chance to kind of see what it looks like putting together one by one. Today's episode is not sponsored by Cheer Wine, but if you're from North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. This is the thing to go if you just want a good soda. Anyway, hold tight. We'll unbox this and see what it looks like. Cheer Wine since 1917. So as we open this up, what we find is we've got a DVD I'll have to watch later to make sure I did it right. We also have a little instruction book. What we'll do is we'll take this step by step so you can see what it is, and hopefully together we can navigate this and you can learn from whatever my mistakes, because I assure you if I make any, I'll stick with it and we'll talk about it. So anyway, let's see what the gripper does and we'll go from there. Okay, so what I've done, I've laid out all the parts just so they're all out in front of you. If you bought the 200 like I did, you do get two bags, a red bag, blue bag. So you get to choose the red pill or the blue pill. Oh no, wait, that's a different scenario. Anyway, each one represents a different part of the assembly. So here's the hardware from the red bag, hardware from the blue bag, and there's all the other components that go in. So what I'm going to do, we'll set this aside and we'll start looking at it. So like I said, we'll flip this open. This does have a nice little guide here to showcase what parts go where. So I'll turn this my way so I can read it, and we'll start the assembly. So first thing it wants us to do is assemble the handle and the bridge. So I've found my screwdriver, so we'll go ahead and get that assembled. So that requires the two screws here and the two washers there. We'll slide those on. And it also requires these two nuts. So we'll slide those in there like that. Slide that down there. And that down there. Assembly seems fairly straightforward, so we'll just see how it goes. Of course, that's not going to work, so I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So thought I was going to be able to slide it in place, but I'm not quite going to be able to. So we'll get that started just like that. Get that one started as well. Spin that back some just so I have plenty of room there. And this should slide right in. And it does. Got that a little snug. So there's that part. So we'll go ahead and just kind of snug them down just to have them so we can maneuver it. So there's the handle to the bridge, or the main body. Alright, step two, they're asking for, now you got two colored knobs, and you've also got these little O-rings. So we're going to end up paying real close attention to which colored knobs go where. They do designate that. For step two, they're calling for knob F, which is the green thumb screw and washer. So we'll go ahead and load those on. So we've got that available. It's also calling for, I guess, these two little half moon pieces here. Going over that. So according to this, that gets laid down and screwed into there. So we'll get both of those started. And I don't know if you can see these little flat washer nut things here. They do have a little rise on one side and they're flat on the other. So you want to make sure that rises up. I do know that much. So get both of those started. And then that should slide right in there. And right in there. So we'll go ahead and snug those up. We'll tighten them, we'll just kind of snug them. Sort of in the, on the end there just a little, or the middle rather. So there we go. And next up, they're wanting us to add both of the side panels. So we'll add both of these. And it doesn't really matter. This unit is universal, so you can operate it either direction. So we'll go ahead and assemble that. Now these do require the little O-rings. You see, you do have a little recess there, a little recess step there. So based on this, I'm assuming that recess has to fit in there like that, because otherwise it would have a gap. So this keeps it nice and tight. So what they're wanting here is to take these screws, load them down with a washer on one side, not too difficult I don't think here, and press that through that hole and that one there. And what they're looking for on the back side though is to keep these locked in, and I'll do one of these at a time, is press this little O-ring over the screw. And so what I'll do is I'll just kind of press it down until it's flush with that recess on the back. And that just keeps the screw in place. So if you ever disassemble this or change sides or different applications that you're going to use the jig for, it does allow you at least to change those without fear of losing your screws. Because I've already lost my marbles, so losing my screws would be no big deal. But that's beside the point. So we'll go ahead and put these two as well. Get those two ready. And same principle, there's a deep recess on one side and a very small recess on the other. The deep obviously is where the head of the screw is going to rest. The shallow side over here is where the O-ring is going to rest. So we'll go ahead and press that one in as well. Not too bad on the assembly. I can't wait to watch the video, because I'm sure they'll do it a whole lot better than I did it. But nonetheless, probably a lot more professional too. So anyway, the two sides are ready. So now we can go ahead and assemble those. And I'll go ahead and drop that on. And it does give you a nice blow-up view of the parts, so you can kind of see what's what. I'll take time later to look at that, make sure we did this properly. Get that screwed in. Alright, so there's the basic assembly of the body, it looks like. Nothing major there. And if you'll notice, I'm flipping the pages and I still have my parts list over here, which I should probably reference a little more. So next thing they want us to do is add on this balance support, and it can go on either side. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the larger side. That way it's there. And it also has the two screws, the two washers. So I've got the two thumb screws, the two washers, and it looks like yep. So it's got the same basic principle. stick that through there, and then these little black O-rings, again not to be confused with the red O-rings, which I'm sure will come up soon. The black O-rings do rest nicely in that little slot on the back, so there's no fear of those getting in the way. And again, it keeps the screws from falling out, I assume, when you're changing the legs and sides over to different applications. So we'll go ahead and screw that in. And I won't tighten them up, but I'll at least get them snug. So there's your support leg. So you got plenty of room there, so if you're up, you have that extra support there, no matter what height you're working with, to give you a little more balance on the outside. So far so good. That's the basic assembly there. Now we've also got a few more things to do because I did buy the 200. We have the whatever that platform there is called. I'm going to call that number 7. So the stabilizing plate. I want to be sort of as technical as I can. So we have the stabilizing plate there. We'll go ahead and get that installed. So it looks like that's got a couple of different slots as well, and that is requiring these T-bolts, which we'll press through. It's also calling for the blue bag now. These little nylon washers to go over top of that. Let me go ahead and get this other one in there as well. Okay, so we can do them both at the same time. Now that nylon washer, they are calling for the nylon washer to go upside down with the shallow side in. And let me just confirm here, because I believe, yep, that looks like her. Compare that to the picture. Yep. I want to make sure I had those slots over there. They didn't. I don't really identify that well, so I'll just confirm before I do it. It appears these little nylon bushings, they will rest inside this little shoulder here, so that's good to know. So we'll tighten those up as far back as we can get them, and get the wing nuts on there. And slowly but surely we'll get the wing nuts on there, and not spin them quite as freely as I thought they would. And then that's how those get locked in place. So that is your stabilizing plate assembled to the main body. So the only thing left is really this back unit here, which they are calling number 8, which is the adjustable spacer. Alright, so the adjustable spacer. So it looks to me like it's going to be a repeat of what we did on the previous one. We'll assemble these washers over top of the thumb screws. Now we got a red here. Let's see what we got. Oh, I can see that I did mess up, but we'll come back and fix that later. So this goes on. If I can keep that screw and washer together. This goes on just like that. Again, gets recessed in from the back with this and locked in place with this black O-ring. I did miss a step on one, but that's an easy fix. So black O-ring here. And as I told you before, I will go back, and if I make a mistake, we'll figure it out together. Price you pay for getting a little quick on the draw. So here's the extra stabilizing piece. So So what we'll do is we come back to this and we'll slide that out because we forgot something. So ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. So we'll unscrew this. Take that off. We'll slide on one of the red O-rings. It is bigger than the others, so that does help identify it a little bit. Now we'll slide that back on. It seems a little awkward, but whatever it's asking for, that's what we'll do. There's no recess on this one for the orange O-ring to rest. So that's going to make for a little interesting setup. So we'll see how that progresses. And we'll make sure that don't press that O-ring down too far, because they are calling for it to go all the way down. D goes on top of the slot, so I was correct. There is no recess. It's supposed to go on top of the slot. It even says it in the directions. So we'll put that back on. And slide that up as far as I can get it. Slide that red O-ring down. Put this in place. Just like that. And we'll lock it down. Making sure I'm pushing that screw as far back as against this piece as I can. And we'll get that snug. All right. So my friends, there is the assembled unit. All right, well there it is, the Gripper 200, fully assembled, ready to go. Hopefully this will keep my fingers safe for many years to come, because as you can see, I don't have a guard or a riving knife on this saw. Which, by the way, if you know a source where I can locate one of these, well, let me know, because I'd love to get a riving knife and a guard. If can't seem to find one, then I guess I'm going to potentially go over to the Gripper system with the zero clearance insert with their riving knife. Just not quite ready to do that just yet. I would like to find an actual assembly. So glad to get rid of the push stick and the homemade push block and get going with my gripper system. So this is Chris with chrisTcross Crafts, just trying to keep a grip on woodworking. So till next time. Does have the little notch that will catch the back of the material, so that'll act as your catch. This also acts as your piece that'll hold it in, and then of course your grippers will also be on there, so it's a nice little combination. This is adjustable based on where it needs to bridge on your saw. If I needed to flip this around, I could just simply remove this and go to town. This will disassemble quite easily just by removing these screws. So now if I need to get right tied up to the fence, I certainly can do that. So if I was going to do a small narrow cut, this would allow me then to get right in there and do that. And I'll do another video later showcasing exactly how this unit works. I do want to play with it before I do that, but based on the assembly, it went together fairly well. Easy to adjust, easy to assemble. The little screws won't come out. So I would say, for the most part, well done, Gripper.